Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Today I am here with what I watched in August. So I have gotten really into movies again. So I have a lot of movies to talk about. TV wise, I really haven't been into TV lately. I've been rewatching a lot of episodes of like Bob's Burgers and The Office. Haven't really like completed any new series to talk about or anything. So let's just jump into the movies because there are a lot of them. I watched X. Now this was not at all what I was expecting it to be. I just thought this was going to be kind of like a basic slasher, I guess, and it was just something entirely different. It was very eerie and odd. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought that I would. I did give it 3 stars. It was good, but it didn't stand out to me. I wouldn't recommend it by any means, especially as far as like horror thriller movies go. I especially did not expect this to have both a prequel and a sequel, because we have Pearl that came out the same year, which at first I didn't even realize they were connected. And it's so funny because when I was watching it with Girk, I even think I said like, oh, that looks like the girl that's in that movie Pearl. And I didn't even realize that was like the same like character. And then next year, I believe, or maybe 2025, we do have Maxine coming out, which is the sequel to X. I didn't think it was great enough to get 2 accompanying movies, but I'm definitely still going to watch those just to see how they are. It is A24. I love A24, so I will watch it, but this one just didn't do it for me, honestly, the way that I thought that it would, you know? Then I rewatched Twister because my husband Girk had never seen Twister, and Twister was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. I loved Twister, and we are getting a sequel to Twister next year, Twisters. This came out in '96. It is definitely, like you can tell, the CGI is so bad, but to me it's like fun bad, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those movies where it's like, you know what, like for '96 this was so fucking good that like you almost still have to appreciate it, right? Like you have to appreciate it for its time. I still really enjoyed it. The storyline wasn't as great as I remembered it being. I don't know why. I thought it was more like action-packed than it actually was. It was still good. It was still a fun watch. I think I still gave it 4 stars. Yeah, I still gave it 4 stars. This is always going to be like a nostalgic movie for me, and I really liked it. He thought it was whack. Then I watched Moonrise Kingdom. This was on my summer watch list. I realized that as far as Wes Anderson goes, I had never actually watched Moonrise Kingdom, or at least like to my memory, and I did not like this one. This was so slow and boring. This one to me just felt really lackluster and kind of like pointless. And I feel like people hype up Wes Anderson like so much just because he does shoot things in such an artistic way, but definitely summer vibes and stuff, but it's just, I was bored at the end of the day. Then I watched What We Do in the Shadows, and I gave this, I think, 5 stars. I gave this 4.5 stars, sorry. 4.5, 5 stars. This was iconic. This was so good. I can't believe it's taken me so long to watch this. I did see that Hulu made a show out of it, which I had never heard of before. So that might be a show that could get me on board. So I'll have to try that out. Let me know if you've watched the show, what you think. Does it even compare? I did really enjoy this. I thought it was hilarious. I love shit like this. Like it was like Halloween spooky vibes, but it was hilarious and cheeky. And I really, really love this. The dry sense of humor is entirely my highway, babes. So I loved it so much. I thought it was so good. I'll probably watch it again in fall, to be honest. Then Spider-Man Across the Universe. 4.5 stars. Iconic, amazing, everything that I wanted and needed. I did not enjoy this one as much as the first one, but Girk enjoyed this one more than the first one. For me, the reason that I didn't enjoy it as much wasn't like the story or anything like that. It was very, very fast-paced. I saw a really funny review of this movie actually, talking about how they can't wait to go home when it like is on streaming and watch it at like 0.5 or 0.75 speed so they can actually like enjoy watching it. And I completely agree. Like this movie moved so fast, and visually it was stunning, but it was a lot. So people like me who kind of have some sensory issues, it was a little bit overwhelming for me, and it did take away from that like viewing experience, just the tiniest. I still absolutely loved it. 4.5 stars. If I had to rate it, like not at a half star, it'd be a 5 star still. And I did love it. I think that the whole idea of like these Spider-Verse and all these different Spider-Men from all these different worlds and all these different, you know, adaptations that we even have in this universe, like it was so cool. I love stuff like that. Like it was just so unique, so funny. I absolutely adored it. Then I watched No Hard Feelings, the rom-com with Jennifer Lawrence, and this one I gave, I think, 3.5, 4 stars. It was way better than I expected it to be completely honest. I kind of expected a flop. I feel like comedies aren't very funny anymore, and I don't mean that in the sense of like, because sometimes a lot of people say that shit and they mean it in the sense of like, oh, you can't say anything offensive anymore, so there's no way to be funny. I'm not on that board necessarily. I think you can be funny without being a fucking prick, but I do think that people get so scared to even border that line, you know? Like they get scared to even push up against that line so much that comedy is just not the same as it used to be in that sense. I'm not a believer that you have to be offensive to be funny. I think that that's could not be further from the truth, but I think people are so scared, like writers are so scared to even become close, that it just makes everything kind of fall short. This one did feel more reminiscent of older comedies than I even expected it to, so it was a little more raunchy than a lot of the stuff that we get nowadays as far as comedy goes, and I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good watch. Was it like memorable to the point of like, oh, I'd rewatch that all the time, or you know, whatever? No, absolutely not, but it was way better than I expected it to be. It had an ending that I wasn't expecting, and I loved that because I, you know, expect the unexpected. It's Big Brother up in here. And I was a little worried near the end of the way that it was going to conclude, and I ended up just really appreciating the direction that they took it in, so I did like this one a lot. Then, and don't judge me for this, don't even get your little fingers started, I had never seen Batman Begins or Dark Knight Rises. I had only ever seen Dark Knight. So we did watch Batman Begins. I did really enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it as much as like the Dark Knight, but it was a good movie. I do agree that I think that that trilogy of Batman is the best, in my opinion. I did really, really like it. I also watched, in conjunction then, The Dark Knight Rises, and I gave that one 4.5 stars. I really liked The Dark Knight Rises. I thought that it had a great storyline. I thought that it was captivating, which is something, to be honest, I feel like DC movies don't know how to do very well. They tend to be very bland. I wish that they had done something with him being Robin, just because I think that that would have been so iconic, and I think that he plays a really, really good one. So that was kind of unfortunate. I was like, oh, it would have been so sick if they had done something with that instead of moving right into fucking Ben Affleck. Then I watched La La Land. La La Land, it wasn't as good as I feel like everybody was hyping it up to be. So like everyone rates this like one of the best movies of the 21st century thus far, and like this iconic, life-changing movie. And it definitely did make me think. It definitely gave me like a existential crisis in a way, because it definitely like just, oh my god, the scene at the end had me, it definitely had me. But it also throughout, it was a little boring. Like at the same time, I didn't understand. I understand why people like it. I don't understand why it got the amount of hype that it did. I definitely still really enjoyed it, but it's not one that I think I would watch again. It's definitely not like a 5-star. It made me think. I think it's a beautiful story visually. The actual plot, the dialogue, everything about it is absolutely amazing. But it still just wasn't as good as I anticipated it being. So it did fall fell a little flat. Then I watched Toy Story 3. I had seen Toy Story 3 before. I love this movie. I think this is a 5-star masterpiece movie. I also watched 4. I guess we can just talk about that now. I did also watch Toy Story 4 this month. We can just talk about them simultaneously. And I love 4 as well. I think 4 is a 4.5-star watch. So I have 4.5-star watch and a 5-star. In my personal opinion, and maybe I'm biased because obviously growing up like with the Toy Story, Toy Story, I think that Toy Story 3 was a masterpiece. I think the ending was perfect. I think that they could have stopped right there, never made anything else that was Toy Story, and called it a day, and it would have been a beautiful day. Like it wrapped up so perfectly. I had seen it before. I knew it was coming, and I still was bawling my absolute eyes out. I love Toy Story 3. I think it's a perfect movie, and I wish that it was the end. Then we have Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4, I love Toy Story 4 as well. Toy Story 4 is an amazing movie. I think that for anybody wondering what happened to the toys or whatever, it does wrap it up perfectly as well, just in a different way, a way that's like maybe a step too far. And then the ending to this one is really, really touching as well, and it's really great. Like, if 3 didn't do it for you and you felt like you needed more from it, 4 would have done it for you. Like, 4 should have been enough then. That to me then is the like, okay, now they're done. Unfortunately, we did just get news that Toy Story 5 is coming out. So I don't really know how to feel about that one. Toy Story 5, what the fuck is it even gonna be about? If you've seen 3, if you've seen 4, then you know that there absolutely is no need for there to be a 5. Will I watch it? Yes. Will I probably enjoy it? Absolutely. It's Pixar. But I don't want them to go too far and ruin the entire franchise by trying to do too much. And I feel like they already have been pushing that a little bit with 4. So now this 5th one has me really nervous. I'm unsure what the plot is even gonna be. It hasn't been released yet. But I'm not excited about this. I think they should have stopped at 3. I think 4 was still a good movie, but this 5th one. Then I watched Midnight in Paris. This was on my summer watch list. I love this. This is 4.5 stars. I love this. Maybe it's because I'm such a big reader as well that the literary parts of this movie, I can't really say anything about spoiling a lot, but the literary parts, the literary elements to this beautifully told romantic comedy just kind of like tugged on my heartstrings a lot, kind of got me excited. It was so much fun. It combined a lot of elements that I like from different genres, I'll say, and I had such a fun time with it. Then I did watch Jurassic World, and since I actually also watched Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, just like Toy Story, I'm going to talk about those at the same time. So Jurassic World I had seen before. Love the Jurassic Park movies. 3 is my favorite. That might be controversial because I know the first one everyone swears is the most iconic. The 3rd one is my favorite. But I had seen Jurassic World before, but not, I had seen it like when it first came out, so my recollection was non-existent, honestly, of the movie. I rewatched that one in order to continue and just like finally complete the trilogy. Jurassic World was good. I give it 3 stars. I think that it was a decent movie. I think that it was obviously very different than the original 3 Jurassic Park movies, but I still think it stood on its own pretty well. I think that it was, you know, it followed a decent plot. It had a pretty good storyline. The acting wasn't terrible. It was a little cheesy, obviously, but honestly, if we're being realistic, the Jurassic Park movies were as well, even for their time. I thought it was still good. I thought it was a decent movie all around. Fallen Kingdom. There are some movies that are so good, right? Because they pull you in so heavily and they kind of make you forget your surroundings. You really get so like heavily immersed in them, right? And that is one thing, and that is beautiful. And then there's other movies that are so like funny or cheesy or bad or whatever that you almost like the experience in itself is good and amazing because you're constantly like saying things about the movie or making jokes about the movie, or it's almost like a laughable experience, or like it's so cheesy that it's good because it's fun, right? Like, why do we watch old horror movies? Because they're campy, they're fun, they're silly. Like, that's what Fallen Kingdom felt like to me. So I actually really enjoyed this movie, but not because it was good. I actually enjoyed it because it was so bad that the experience watching it, like with Gerg, was so fun. It was so fun because the movie was so bad that we constantly were like, what the fuck? I'm excited to see what the last one is, the final Jurassic Park or World movie, and so I am excited to see how that one is. And just finish the franchise. Then, I don't know if you know, but Cinema Day was on last Sunday. So it was the last Sunday of August, I reckon. And it was $4 movies to any movie in the entire United States. So we did a little double feature moment, and we saw Oppenheimer and the last voyage of the Demeter. So that was fun. There was also some good deals on like concessions and stuff, and it took me back to where like going to the theater is fun and you don't have to like save up for it. You know what I mean? Like, it was just for fun. It was like nice. So let's talk about Oppenheimer first. So Oppenheimer, I gave 4 stars. I honestly don't have a lot to say about Oppenheimer because it's not a movie that I would have typically watched, but Gerg was so keen on watching it. And I am a big Christopher Nolan fan. One of my favorite movies of all time is Interstellar. So I am a big fan of Christopher Nolan. And so we did watch it in IMAX. It was still $4, so I was like, why not? The cinematography was absolutely stunning. The visuals, the sound, almost burst my eardrum. It's the loudest movie I have ever been to in my life. So be careful if you're sensitive to stuff like that, because it literally, like, it kind of like jump scares you with the sound a couple times. I will say that because it is like a movie based on an autobiography, the story's there, right? Like, Christopher Nolan couldn't have taken it and done what he wanted with it as far as like switching up the plot or the story or whatever. Like, he made the decision to tell this exactly how, as far as we're all concerned, it happened, right? I feel like because he's known for these really elaborate, kind of confusing, convoluted type of stories, he tried to still do that a little bit with this, and it just made it very confusing, but not in a good, fun way like some of his other things. So it's told in a non-linear format, so we get different stories from different time periods, and there's some scenes are in black and white just to signify a different POV, and then there's some elements that are like in the future that are in the, like, it's all over the place to the point where like you can't really tell what the times are because there's so many different ones. I don't mind a dual timeline sort of thing, but this was like timelines were thrown all over the place. I still think it's an absolutely amazing movie, but I do think Christopher Nolan tried to make it confusing just for the sake of like staying on brand with his work, and it didn't need to be. So that is where I got a little frustrated with the movie, just because I felt like it maybe didn't need to have those elements, but he just wanted to for the sake of it, and that kind of sucked. Then the last movie was The Voyage of the Demeter. This was really bad. I gave it 3 stars because it was fun, it was campy, it was cheeky. Like, it was one of those horror movies, like I was talking about earlier. We watch them because they're silly. We watch them to poke fun. We watch them to kind of be like, oh, this is like so bad that it's a fun experience, right? And that's like what this was again. It was not a good horror movie. You're not gonna be scared. You're not gonna, like, you know, jump out of your seat or be like, ooh, or, you know, whatever. I know that they weren't meaning to do that, right? Like, they wanted this to be scary, but I think experience is saying something in my rating, you know? Like, it was a fun experience watching it. It definitely got me in the mood for fall. I instantly, like, went home, and the next day I, like, made my fall watch list, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited for, like, fun horror movies this year. But it wasn't amazing. It's not one that you need to go to theaters for. It's not one you need to, you know, put on your watch list and get to right away. Like, it was okay. I did appreciate the fact that it's, like, a story of, like, a part of the Dracula story that we don't often get, because like the Demeter voyage is such a small part of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Like, it's a chapter, and we don't normally get that story when we see adaptations of Dracula. So that I appreciate, and I really like that, like, those elements, as far as like it being a pretty untold story unless you've read Dracula. So that was really, really cool to me. But yeah, I don't know, it left on a bit of a cliffhanger. I reckon that we're gonna get a second one or something depending on how it goes, but it definitely left off in a way that would signify the idea of like a second one, which I would watch. So that is everything that I watched in August. I told y'all I've been watching so many movies, so that was a lot. Thank you for bearing with me if you made it all the way to the end. Let me know if you've seen any of them or what your thoughts are or whatever, and I will see you guys in the next video.